I want to bring in former CIA analyst, Center for Security Policy, Senior Vice President Fred Fleitz with us right now. Also with us is former Army Intelligence Officer Andrew Peek. Gentlemen, it is good to see you both. Thank you so much for joining this conversation, guys. Fred, let me kick this off with you. The suspect was married with children, just like the San Bernardino shooter. What do you make of these attacks and the similarities here? What should we be taking out from this?
Well, Maria, it's good to be here. We have to honestly acknowledge the threat. The threat is not violent extremism. The threat is not terrorism. It's radical Islam or the global jihad movement that's at war with modern society. We have to sweep away the political correctness in the news media that promoted by the Obama administration and focus on this and get the American public to report. See something, say something is really the best defense against these possible attacks. It's impossible for us to guard every inch of a city like New York. We need the public's help.
Andrew, how do you see it? I mean, obviously this is terrorism.
This is terrorism. I think unlike the Las Vegas shooter of a few weeks ago, the motive here is very clear. I agree with Fred largely. I think the biggest untold story in this is that it could have been much worse. That the suspect carried rubber weapons, fake weapons like a pellet gun, meant to me that he meant to take hostages and force a standoff with police. That's really the only reason to take fake weapons. So the takeaway for me is the NYPD did a really great job.
Well, Andrew, I will point out that the time of day was critical here. That's why there weren't more deaths. This terrorist drove this rented flatbed truck for a mile heading south on the bike path adjacent to the West Side Highway. And it was a time of day where it was largely, we've seen the victims who were killed, they were tourists out riding bicycles. This is a time of day when you don't have a lot of New Yorkers out riding bikes to and home from work, out pushing children in baby carriages.
On Halloween.
Halloween, when kids weren't out yet trick-or-treating. So some of this was luck that there weren't more victims.
I think that's true. I mean, I would point out that a lot of New Yorkers also work out in that area after work, right? I mean, the evening is a time when many people go on the jog, on the High Line, on the West Side. I think really in the tactical circumstances and the time of day, I think there is truth to that. But really, the luck factor is very large overall.
Let me just point one thing out, though. This is an area where it's at Pier 40 is roughly where the first people were hit by this vehicle. And then the attack ended at Stuyvesant High School, which is roughly a mile south. That area, there is an entire separate pedestrian park running path over on the water. That's why he was on the bike path and not the actual pedestrian path. So that's one other reason why more people were not injured.
So gentlemen, do me a favor, weigh in on the targeting here. So we got a guy who's in a Home Depot in New Jersey. He now drives into Manhattan and he looks for this spot. What does that say to you guys in terms of, I mean, he could have gone anywhere.
Why that spot?
Why that spot? Was he meaning to attack that bus? What can you glean from the circumstances of this attack as to what his motivation is in terms of targeting?
It wouldn't surprise me if this was specifically targeted to find a site near the World Trade Center. And we know ISIS has changed its tactics. It's trying to drive smaller terrorist attacks like this that are harder to stop. That use basically devices that are not weapons, that are basically we can't outlaw everybody trying to reserve a truck. And the possibility of all these attacks succeeding is low, but they don't have to have many of them to succeed to get a major public relations bonanza.
All right, we will leave it there. Fred Fleitz, Andrew Peek, great to see you both. Thank you very much for weighing in on this horrific story this morning.